everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Kalika and you're gonna be a craftier person after watching this video. The tires are clean, Sarge. I love reading this sub and thought I'd add one of my own. Years ago, I'm in the army, a young private, fresh out of basic training and assigned to my first post along with a few of my buddies. A newly promoted E6 staff sergeant was assigned our squad leader and he made our lives a living hell. He was not an intelligent man, a poor leader, and was intoxicated with his new power. Fast forward 3 months later, our unit was facing an upcoming ARTEP, Army Training Evaluation Program, and life was a frantic series of cleaning equipment before the big inspection. Our squad leader, Sergeant W, was assigned the task of ensuring the platoon's jeeps, yeah, this was years ago, were spit-shined and able to pass inspection. We had 4 jeeps. Sergeant W calls us together and tells us we better have the jeeps squared away or else. We hustled down to the motor pool and spent the morning pressure washing the jeeps and even using Q-tips and cleaning grime out of every crevice. By the time we were finished, those jeeps were spotless. After lunch, Sergeant W shows up at the motor pool and conducts his own inspection. He proceeded to ridicule our work over several minutes while we stood at parade rest in angry silence. Finally, one of my buddies raised his hand. Sergeant W, could you at least tell us what needs to be done to meet your standards? Sergeant W goes off. After another minute of ranting, he tells us we cannot go anywhere until we fix this crap, and he left. At this point, all we're doing is wiping down the jeeps and cleaning off dirt that did not exist. It wasn't until well after dark until Sergeant W came back and conducted another inspection, in the dark, without a flashlight. He finally stated the tires were dirty and we were to clean them, just like those tires on your POVs, personally owned vehicles. He then stomped off, vowing to make our lives hell for inconveniencing him. We'd had enough. One of us went back to our barracks room and retrieved a spray bottle of tire cleaner, the kind that leaves the tires clean and shiny. Note, never have anything shiny on a combat vehicle. Sergeant W came back at midnight, and once again gave a cursory inspection in the dark before dismissing us. The Army Training Evaluation Program inspection of the jeeps took place first thing the next morning. Imagine the commanding officer's reaction when he saw the shiny tires on the jeeps. He went ballistic. All of us paid the price, but it was worth it because Sergeant W was punished along with us. We were stuck with him for the next year, during which time he went on to do a number of stupid things. A 22-gun salute in a funeral detail he was in charge of was the funniest, before he was finally transferred to Korea. It's a wonder he didn't cause an international incident while he was there. I also looked in the comments just to get the story of the 22-gun salute as well, so I'll put it here. I had mistyped, it was actually a 24-gun salute, I'll explain. A funeral detail consists of the NCOIC, non-common charge, who directs the detail and ultimately hands the flag to the next of kin. This was Sergeant W. You have the soldiers who carry the coffin and fold the flag, and then 7 soldiers who fire their rifle 3 times. 3 times 7 is 21. For some reason, on the day of the funeral, Sergeant W directed 8 soldiers to fire the 3-round volley, hence the 24-gun salute. Bear in mind, in the 2 days before the funeral, we'd rehearsed some more. We'd had it all memorised. Everyone had it memorised. An extra soldier was brought along simply to fill in only if Murphy's Law happened, and one of the other soldiers could not perform. Sergeant W could not stand the fact that this soldier was only standing by, and ordered him to join in the detail. We had grown to simply laugh at Sergeant W's antics at this point, and could not wait to get back and tell everyone about it. I have no idea if anyone attending the funeral caught the snafu. Damn, that guy sounded like a complete nightmare who didn't have a single clue what he was doing. For some reason, and I don't know why, because it's not directly relevant, it reminds me of an Ask Reddit thread I read years ago about funny punishments in the military, like making a recruit mop outside in the rain and stuff like that. But there was always one that stood out to me, and I might get some details wrong here, but do feel free to look it up for yourself. So, I believe it was in like a boot camp, and the recruit couldn't do anything right, didn't arrive for things on time, didn't dress himself properly, forgot what he was doing, and so on and so forth. Until eventually the leader, or the guy who was in charge of him, snapped and told him that he was tired of yelling at him because he could tell that it wasn't working. He told the recruit to stand there and wait, while the leader stomped off, and when he returned, he was carrying a small potted plant. handed it to the recruit and told him that he had to carry the plant with him everywhere that he went, and if someone asked him why he was carrying the potted plant, he had to reply that it was because he was a waste of oxygen and that was his way of making up for it. It was the most brutal thing I'd ever heard and I laughed so much, but I felt really sorry for the guy as well. Sure, I'll come in. So, first time posting here, English is not my first language, so sorry, TLDR at the bottom. This happened to me about 6 years ago, and I think it may fit in here. During my apprenticeship in a big company, we got ordered into a meeting with our direct boss today. The person who runs the whole apprentice department, we were like 120 people at that time. He told all of us that we had way too many sick days in the last couple of weeks, and that this was detrimental to the company and working morale. He even had graphs and a whole PowerPoint presentation shaming some people directly for being sick too often. But because all the sick days were because of doctor's notices, he couldn't directly discipline us in any way. So he came up with a new rule, that every doctor's notice has to be given to him in person on the first day of sick leave. Before that, there was a post box where we could just drop them off and call in sick. From now on, he wants to see every last one of us. It was pretty clear that he thought some of us were just faking it and that this new rule would keep us from doing so. A couple of days after the meeting, I got very sick with a bad case of stomach flu. I kid you not, I was spraying it like a fire hose. I felt like I had to die, but I still mustered the strength to call into work, telling the boss's secretary that I was sick. He reminded me that I have to come in with a doctor's notice or I would get in trouble. I told him that I was really not in the condition to come in today, but he was adamant about it. So I did. I went to the doctor, got my notice, drove to work and walked up to the secretary. He told me my boss was in a meeting with all the higher-ups from other departments, but he was instructed to send me in. I could only imagine because he wanted to make this as uncomfortable as possible for me, but I had no problem with that. I went into the meeting room with all the important people. My boss stood up from the conference table and made me greet everyone there with a handshake, so I did. I guess he saw how uncomfortable it made me, but had a smug smile on his face. When I was finally able to give him my doctor's notice, he asked me what I had, a little cold? That was the moment I looked him in the eyes, told him I was crapping and vomiting like a volcano for the last 2 days, and my doctor thought I had a bad case of stomach flu, and that I should be at home and not around people in case I was contagious. His mouth dropped open, everyone in the room was silent, and I turned around and went home. The rule was dropped not long after that. I would bet money on it that everyone in that room left immediately to go and wash their hands. Imagine being such a gigantic jerk of a manager that you'd force a sick person to come into work to prove that they're sick and then expose everyone in the place to the flu. Think you deserve more than 10% off and refuse to listen to our warnings? Okay, then you can't have it. Hey y'all, first ever post here and it's not much, but it put a smile on my face, so I figured why not. On mobile, sorry for formatting, etc. TLDR at the bottom. So I work customer service at a very popular retail store that basically sells everything from food to electronics to plants. You've all been to this hellhole, and I'm sure you know exactly where I'm talking about, but I'm not going to say the name, since I'm still there till uni starts. So since I work the customer service desk at one of the least respected stores, I pretty much see the scum of the earth daily, and most of the management is part of that. Making rules that make sense on paper, but not in practice. Giving screaming customers whatever they want because they screamed, but not giving anything to the people who are kind to the workers. Today, management had our backs though. I have lots of stories, but this one is fresh from yesterday, so here you go. A woman comes up to the customer service desk asking if she can get a discount on a pair of shoes because they look tattered and bad. There was nothing wrong with these shoes, they just looked like cheap shoes because, well, that's what they were. My co-worker was the one she approached and not wanting to argue, told her we can give her 10% off. This is the max discount even for associates. We aren't really technically supposed to give discounts on anything, but it's a big company and they don't care about a few bucks, so whatever. This girl gets mad though and says she doesn't think she should have to pay anything even close to full price for something of such low quality. The shoes were $14.97 by the way. My co-worker explains that's the best we can really do for her, but she could buy a pair that she thinks looks less tattered. She says they all look like that, because that's how the shoe is supposed to look, and that she wants to speak to the manager because she deserves to pay less for something so tattered. At this point I stepped in, because we were understaffed that night and I knew the managers were currently dealing with other issues, associates being nowhere to be found, an issue in the parking lot, lots of sick calls, etc. and in my experience, most people just need to be told by any other person the same thing that they were told the first time. I told the lady that the max discount anyone is able to give in the store is 10%, and that's only for actually broken items, even for associates, and that if the manager comes up, they will most likely tell her she's getting no discount at all. She scoffs and says, "Sure, I want to speak to them anyways and we'll see. I really want these shoes, and they're the only ones in my size, and they're tattered." I tried to tell her again that the managers won't give her a higher discount and that it'll probably take them like 10 minutes to get to the front, but she tells me to just get the manager and she'll see for herself. Cue malicious compliance. I had originally thought it'd be an a-hole tax situation, but it turned out better. So I call for a manager, and like I predicted, it took about 10 or 15 minutes for them to come to the front, and I guess they weren't very happy about it, presumably since they were in the middle of something else. So at this point, the lady has already wasted 15 minutes of her day waiting here and making faces at me and my co-worker as though she had won. I point the manager toward the customer when she gets there, and they go ask what the issue is. The lady starts bashing me and my co-worker, saying we are horrible at customer service and the customer is always right, blah blah blah. And she wants a bigger discount than just 10% because these shoes are broken, she now says. I guess since we told her she won't get a discount unless it's broken. And she doesn't want to pay even close to full price for something so low quality, she repeated. My manager looks at it and tells her they're not broken, and that's just how the shoes look. The lady argues, saying they are, and she deserves a bigger discount. At this point, I guess my manager just snapped and said, "Okay, well if you're sure they're broken, then we can't actually sell them. They have to go through our claims department and get sent back to the company. Sorry for your troubles. Is there anything else I can help you with?" As she takes the shoes and puts them into the bin we have behind the desk that goes to claims. The woman is speechless for a second, and my manager walks away, and then this woman started stuttering to us that she'll take the 10% now, and we told her no. She even said she'll pay full price since they were the only ones in her size, and we just told her over and over that no, we have to send them back to the company since they are broken, and we can't sell them to anyone. She eventually gives up and walks away. My co-worker and I have a good laugh, and about 5 minutes later she walks past the desk again and all but yells, "I'm not buying a single thing from the store anymore." I responded, "Okay, have a great night," and smiled all cheery while she huffed and left. Unfortunately, I'm 99% sure she'll be back in a week like every other customer who's never shopping here again, but one can hope. I absolutely hate people who do this. They try and buy items that they actually want but say that they're tattered or damaged or whatever. I remember I once seen a woman throwing tins of sweet corn on the ground in a shop because she could get them cheaper if they were dented. In this story, the staff were super generous in offering her any sort of discount, but I'm absolutely thrilled they ended up in the bin instead. So that's all for r/MaliciousCompliance. I really hope you did enjoy it. As always, if you do want to see more content like this, then please do subscribe. My Twitter, Discord, and Patreon links are in the description, and any support is greatly appreciated. And because it's Sunday, I also want to say thank you to my wonderful patrons. BackwardsDDog, Tyler Miller, Jen Spanning, Kate McCutcheon, Skyler A, Elizabeth Filmore, Two Chooks, and Jen Burton. Thank you so much for your support. Mwah. That's for you, but keep it between us, okay? Thank you so much for watching. Bye!